Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Payson. Welcome back for everyone who's already a subscriber to the channel. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe. That way you can see more great interviews, including the interview that's coming at you now. First time guest on MMA Fancast, 2-0, undefeated amateur MMA fighter, 6 days away from his next fight at 247 Fighting Championships Brawl in the Burgh 20, February 24th from Murraysville Sports Zone Arena is the one, the only, Noah Gaudiello. Noah, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm
I feel
excited.
like I had to give you a good intro because this has been a long time making. I appreciate you coming on. I've been hoping to get you on, I think, before your first amateur fight and then afterwards, but obviously it's just so great to have you on now going into your third fight. So let's back up. We're going to get to Brawl in the Burgh 20, February 24th. Tickets available at 247 Fighting Championships. I'm sorry, 247fighting.com or 247 live on your apps. But for now, let's back up. What sports did you do growing up, and what led you to start training MMA?
Well, I started out like my parents had me kind of do like the whole run of the mill, like youth league, everything, like baseball, basketball, and soccer until I was about sixth grade. I switched over to football, and that kind of became the main sport. I did all those like growing up, going through elementary school, and then football throughout middle school into like early high school became like my main focus. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a receiver in the NFL. And fortunately, you come to that realization. You're like, this is kind of for special people. Like you have to really have a skill set and really be motivated and push for that. So that kind of started fading out towards like junior year-ish. Sophomore year, I started really taking like lifting weights seriously. Like I was like mainly bodybuilding, and then starting like junior, senior year, I kind of got into like competitive powerlifting. And after that, I did two meets, powerlifting meets that I did fairly well at, and I was pretty absorbed in that until quite funny, a person I was powerlifting who he's competed for 247. His name's Noah Miller. He
Okay.
grappled recently on their Sprawl in the Burgh. Well, it wasn't Sprawl in the Burgh, but it was the ones they had before the
Right, the
before the
combined
last Sprawl in
event.
the Burgh.
Right, right.
Yeah. And he was talking about jujitsu, and like I've always kind of watched UFC like all throughout high school and stuff. I like would get with my buddies and we'd watch it like at my buddy's apartment or whatever, like all the time. Every single pay-per-view we'd pitch and buy it. And he started talking about jujitsu, and it kind of got me interested in it. And two of my really close friends, CJ and Jake Riley, they started doing jujitsu kind of just in their living room. They got like two Dollar mats. They took out their couch, put them up in the living room, got the mop and the broom kit and all that. So I started like doing jujitsu with them and did that for a couple of months, and just like, just rolling around, no real instruction or whatever. But like I kind of credit a lot of my base of jujitsu to that, because I mean, I figured a lot of things out without even knowing what was going on. So I did that for a couple months, and then I got introduced to MVRAs, and that's whenever I started training there, and I got like the full like boxing started, and that just led into kickboxing, and then I started taking jujitsu there, and just kind of like overlapped onto each other until I got to MMA.
Makes a lot of sense. We saw you make your debut for MMA debut at Brawl in the Burgh 17 in July of last year, so just under
Yeah.
a year ago. So
Mhm.
you're on pace for potentially 4 fights in your first year. Obviously,
Yeah.
6 days away from this fight. They've already announced a June. No, they've already announced an April and June
Yeah. Yeah.
event. So you could potentially fight April and June and either do 4 or 5 fights in your first year.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting. Let's talk about your first 2 fights, both for 247, one at Brawl in the
Mhm.
Burgh 17, one at Brawl in the Burgh 18. So obviously you like going back to back. You missed Brawl in the Burgh
100%.
19 in December
That's
because
a shame. That's a
what
shame.
happened there? What were you doing?
Well,
Getting fat and lazy? What was happening?
all right. I got an offer to do a jiu-jitsu tournament. Well, not an offer, but my coach, he recommended that we work on my ground game,
Of course.
and we eyed out this jiu-jitsu tournament. And I signed up for it. And a couple days after I signed up for it, Hunter texted me. He's like, "Hey, we have someone that's he wants me to sign this contract." And it was to fight Evan. And so Evan DeRusi.
Evan DeRusi, yeah,
Yes,
who's
man. And
looking,
it's such a
yeah.
shame that I already signed up for that
Oh,
jiu-jitsu tournament, because just seeing that kid's trajectory and his skill set, that would have been so much fun to like go up against that challenge and to see like what that fight could have held. But just I had to go work on my jiu-jitsu, and we already decided on that. So
sure.
went forward and did that. And I'm like kind of glad I did it, because I feel like that sets up a bigger
Sure.
fight down the road.
Of
Because
course, and we'll
what
talk
he's
about
doing.
Evan and Dan Walters both.
Oh my God, man. That fight,
Yeah,
that's going to be an incredible fight.
incredible fight. And this is what's great about 247. Way back when Ryan Middleton, the owner, first started talking to me before there ever was the first event. It's almost been 5 years now. April 6th, I believe, was the first event of 2019. But anyhow, he kind of painted this picture of what 247 is starting to become. And, one of the things was homegrown. You've
Yeah.
fought two, now three fights for 247. Evan DeRusi and Dan Walters have both fought for 247. They're in what is being called a title eliminator. Obviously, with an
Yeah.
impressive win, you might be able to jump right back in there, since that's all at 170. But that's something that the legendary Jim Mooney does a great job of
Yeah.
developing matches between fighters in the area, but also bringing fighters from out of the area.
Mhm.
We'll talk about the fact that your opponent is from Ohio, so being
Yeah.
brought a little bit. But how did that tournament go? You gave up the opportunity to fight Evan Ducey. He had a potential knockout of the year.
Yeah, I watched. I was
Yeah,
there. I
yeah.
was there. My
Hey,
buddy CJ Riley, he grappled on that card, man. And
man.
I was like, I have to stay for Evan's fight. I have to watch this. And I was like, we sat in the seats, like kind of just diagonal from the cage for like the fighters that just got done. So since he grappled, I sat there with him and we were watching. I was smiling after it, dude. I was like, yes. Like, I mean, like, I wasn't cheering him on per se, but like, I like to see great people do great things. And I mean, I know I might possibly fight him sooner or later, but I'd like to. But like, just seeing that and just seeing how skilled he was, just made me like happy for that challenge in the future I see happening. But like, man, it was really impressive.
I think that's the right attitude to have. Obviously, as future competitors, I think it's good to have respect for your
Oh,
opponent.
100%. Yeah, all
Uh,
respect to him
we
there.
saw that happen, and now there's a title fight between Hoot Lee and Cowboy Eddie. And I had the privilege over their fighting career of interviewing them post fight, and that's what ends up happening, right? What ends up
Yeah,
happening is they called each other out. They realized that they were on a collision course, and so who knows?
yeah,
February 24th is 6 days away. You might have somebody in mind for your post fight interview, and that's something that can really be used down the road for easy matchmaking, right?
yeah,
Make the legendary Jim Mooney not have to work
yeah.
so
Make his
hard
life
when you
real
make it.
easy.
But and give credit to Dan Waters. He's 3-1 coming into that fight versus Evan DeRusi, and that's an exciting advanced amateur fight. Now, speaking of that,
Very.
we're gonna get back to your upcoming fight. I'm trying really hard because that's gonna be so great to talk about. And it'll be your last, hopefully your last non advanced amateur, your last novice, which is
Oh,
great.
it will be. It will
Yeah,
be.
which is exactly. So there you go. But let's jump back. You had two fights,
Hmm.
two wins, both by stoppages, one by strikes, one by rear naked choke.
Yeah.
Walk us through your experiencing of in round two, winning by TKO with only 7 seconds left in the second round versus Falco Tete. And how was that for you? What do you remember of that as your debut, July of not even a year ago?
Well, it was like surreal. Like, I mean, I wasn't super nervous per se up until the moment where I got into the cage, and you're like, you realize that door's gonna shut behind you, and then like it's happening. Like, I wasn't doubting my skill set. I wasn't like afraid of getting hurt or anything, but I was like, man, I'm about to fight someone. Like, your nerves are and your adrenaline are like super ramped up. Like, I remember someone, I think it might have been you talking about how like in the whenever you guys were commentating about how Falco talked about his debut, everything kind of has like a blurish look
Mm,
to it and stuff like that. And I like the lights seem real bright. Like you don't really notice the crowd. You kind of have like I felt pretty locked in once ever I like looked across and we were looking at each other. But like your nerves are on edge up until you start doing what you're doing. And then I got that first round in, and I thought I was going to finish him with that arm bar because I got the triangle and then we transitioned to an arm bar, and I thought I heard someone yell tap, so I let go of it and then I got up, and then like I realized it wasn't over yet, and then we got to the corner and I was like, "Oh, dude, I got this." Like it was this like I was very confident in my ability to finish that, seeing how the first round went. But to be fair to him, Falco, I DM Falco a lot. I talk to him a lot, and
Right.
he had some stuff going on in his life. He had some rough things happening to him, and he's made a change. So I believe I caught him in a low point of his career, and I think when he comes back, he's gonna really surprise a lot of people with like because he's been making changes and he's been working hard and he's back at it. So I'm very excited to see like what kind of splash he makes whenever he returns because I'm confident he'll step back in there. But like just the way I finished that fight, I believe was about as good as I could have. I made him give up whenever I put him down on the ground and he didn't get back up. So I mean, call it a TKO or not, but like I believe he'll be better than what he was in that fight, but I still got in there and did what I had to do. And as far as the second fight, that was just perfect, dude. I mean, like granted, Ron, good opponent, but he needed more time. He needs more time to develop. Might have stepped in there a little too early,
Mhm.
and I like just stuck to what I do and like let him get into my spacing. I put him down on his back, and like it took me a second to even realize I put him down,
Right.
and I had to jump on top of him, finish the fight with that rear naked choke, and like there's no feeling like a first round finish that just goes that clean. I think I only got hit whenever he like blitzed me for like the first like 12 seconds, and then I got him off, just controlled space, and then finished him with that rear naked choke and that picture perfect finish where I was smiling on the cage. So that one was nice, man. I was smiling for like 12 hours after that. That was really fun. It was like a high I've never felt.
Well, and you definitely have, in two fights, you've impressed with two finishes, one by stoppage, one by submission. So obviously both by stoppage, just different
Yeah.
forms of stoppage. Very, very exciting. Um, how does that help coming into this fight? It's been October, I believe was the last time you fought. Obviously, we talked about how December didn't happen due to that, due to you doing the tournament. First off, how was that tournament for you? Did What was
It
your
was
record
good.
tournament, and kind of how do you think that set you up for this coming fight?
It was really good. It was my second ever jiu-jitsu. Well, let me correct that. It was my third jiu-jitsu tournament. I did Naga probably like 7, 8 months before that. And then I did a tournament at Stout. And in both of those tournaments, I didn't place. I mean, I did okay, but I didn't place. I went maybe like 1-2 in like both of those. At this one, I went 2-1 and I got the bronze medal, which was like
Okay.
that's an achievement. I didn't have a medal for jiu-jitsu before and I got that. And I hope I'm probably gonna do a jiu-jitsu tournament here in March because to be quite honest, that's one of the things I have the most fun with in my training is this jujitsu. And I'd
Sure.
love to like I'm really dived in on that, trying to learn that. Like the people I moved in with, CJ and Jake Riley, they're very avid at jujitsu. They're both blue belts, and we moved in together because they got their parents' house. And so now like we do jujitsu in the living room. He teaches down at Devotion. So like I'm really, really into that at the moment. And I think that's gonna like the more I work on it and the more I progress it, I feel like that's going to be one of my strong suits. Like for this fight alone, I feel like it's going to really show, and I intend to make it show. And besides that, like you said, how did these two fights help me for my next fight?
Yes, sir.
And to be quite honest, the only thing that helps me is I know I have experience in the cage. As far as the finishes go and the opponents go, I throw that all out the window because this is a completely different challenge. I believe no disrespect or shade to my past two opponents, but I believe this guy will be a bigger challenge than both of them. So I'm kind of just all the experience I have against fighting people in the cage before that, it's kind of just out the window. Besides just me getting in there, getting comfortable, and sticking to my skill set, and just acting and reacting. Doing what I do and sticking to my skill set and doing what I have to do to go and get the victory. Because to be quite frank, as an amateur fighter, like a lot of people are going to fight very differently, and the certain things that they might be able to do that like the next opponent won't. I feel like you can't really bank that as like something to rely on. Like
Yeah.
certain reactions that Falco had, this guy won't have. Certain movements that Ron had, this guy won't have. So I'm just kind of the only thing I'm going to use is just that I know I've been in the ring, octagon, and I'm just going to be comfortable with that. And besides that, I'm just going to settle in and fight.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. It's a great mental mindset, amateur, and we say it, for 247 or really any amateur coming up. Amateurs should be changing so much, developing for the better. You were
Yeah,
very
yeah,
kind and encouraging to Falco, and hopefully he's doing better in his life, like you said. But you
hmm
know, any amateur should be win or lose. It really doesn't matter. They should be different the next time
100%.
out. Now, even as a
Yeah,
pro, that can still happen, but
yeah,
eventually, as a pro, the skill set kind of gets well rounded and sort of becomes more in concrete. But right now, and I always say this, and hopefully you'll feel this way when as soon as the fight ends the 24th in 6 days, you should feel like the Noah that night would have beaten the Noah from the October and the Noah from
yeah,
July. Because an amateur, you should always be really fighting against yourself. Your opponents
yeah,
change, but you should always be improving. And I've seen that in all the guys we've talked about that are becoming staples of 247. You're starting to see their ability to kind of beat their older self. We talk about
yeah,
this a lot at the pro ranks with Justin the General Patton. We've seen him at amateur, we've seen him at pro. Every time he's in there at pro, it's like he could have beat the previous himself, and that's what you need to be doing. So
yeah,
let's talk about the living situation. You're 21 years old. You're
yeah.
clearly really focused and prioritizing MMA. How did you come to the ability to be able to do this? Are you working part time, or is this your full focus? And I know you train primarily, like we've said, at Ambiris, but you also train at Devotion and the
Yeah.
legendary Nick Brown's gym, All American, and
Oh yeah.
he's a jujitsu guy. I'm sure you know that, and he's
I roll with Nick all the time. He makes
and
me
he's
feel
about your size, right? And skill
yeah.
level. Your guys are equal on skill level. That's a joke. That's a
Doesn't feel
joke. That was a
doesn't feel
joke.
like it.
But you're no, definitely not. He's way up there. I mean, in
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
in his jiu-jitsu skill level. But I do know size wise, it's got to be nice
Yeah.
rolling with a
Yeah.
guy that's at the top of his game. Because jiu-jitsu is a lot about getting different leg lengths and getting different
Yeah.
arm lengths and getting different sizes. So yeah, let's back up, talk about kind of where you are in your life at 21 and kind of
Mhm.
your house set up. And do you have a part-time job? Like what's making it work, and what's your focus on right now in your life?
Well, so I work part-time night shift at UPS. So I work probably like 10:45 to like 3 or 4 on a normal night, sometimes later. And that's taken a lot of getting used to with this. My schedule actually works out pretty well with that work schedule. I work Monday through Friday, and I'll come like Monday. I wake up around like noon. I'll do my like lift or training or whatever. Then I'll come home, eat, go back to the gym for boxing and jujitsu. I'll do that, come home, shower, eat, go straight to work, work until 3 or 4, come home, shower, and go to bed. And when I have to go see my girlfriend at college, that gives me time to go do that because I can get up, go do that, come home, train. So I have good time and good like work life balance to be able to like fit in my training and work at the same time. Like it gets rough sometimes with that night shift. Like we train at Ambiares on Saturday mornings. We have our 5 mile run at 9 a.m.
Hmm.
and then we spar afterwards. So usually I get home around 3:30 or 4, conk out for like 3 4 hours, and then I'll get up at 8, run spar, and then come home and sleep for a little bit longer. So sometimes it's a little rough, but for now it's doing what it needs to do. It's helping me pay rent. So I moved out probably like 3 weeks to a month ago now, and I moved in with my boys CJ and Jake Riley and Jake's fiance, and it gives me the money to pay rent, get my groceries, get my supplements, and like put money on the side. So like all my like worries about like finances and stuff are kind of put to the side. I can fully focus on just like training, getting food, and just doing what I have to do for this. And my full intention is just to keep doing this and succeeding at this so I can just quit there and just do this for like money. That's like the full dream is to be able to support myself and a family and just do what I love to do instead of throwing boxes and scanning bags. So until then, I'll do that. It's nothing bad. I enjoy it. They take care of me, and it's not nothing too crazy. It's not like pipeline or any like hard labor,
Right.
but it does what it has to do for me right now.
Well, and I give you credit, obviously, your housemates credit. You're prioritizing and you're willing to work. I personally think the shift you're coming up with kind of works performance wise because you're never going to fight earlier than I think most fights 7:30 is about
Yeah,
the earliest, and obviously you're advancing in your amateur career, so you'll fight later on cards, and eventually when you look at main events can be 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. So I think in general the fact that you are in a way peaking your productivity for the evening can work. There's even
yeah,
fighters that have to kind of start pushing. Let's say you're a fighter that goes the exact opposite. They're up at 4:30 or 5, run,
yeah.
work out, train, and then go to work. That's another fighter lifestyle where they're in bed by 8 or 9, get up early to work out, go during a day job. So I think in a way your evening stuff works because a lot of training is mid-afternoon to early
Yeah.
evening. So it kind of works with your schedule. I mean, I know a lot of gyms even have 7 or 8 o'clock 8 o'clock, training session. So
Mhm.
really great stuff. Glad you're able to do that. Glad that's your focus. We've seen more and more. I'm sure I said it about you watching you fight when you were a debuter. This is what it kind of takes for a debut or a low level amateur. It's really got to be a lot of focus because we
Yeah,
used to see debut amateurs, not have everything together, and that's still
yeah,
okay. You can
yeah,
develop, but you're a great example. A future potential opponent in Evan DeRusi is a great example.
yeah.
Boot Lee's a great example. Cowboy Eddie. There's a lot of great examples from 247 of guys, yourself included, that looked like advanced amateurs in their debut. They were
Thank you.
already.
Thank you.
I remember you looked like that. So that goes a long way. If you can look 3 or 4 fights better, more mature than you are, that's always going to help. It's
Thank you.
just like, Lucas Siebert is making his debut. He's a big name
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
area, and I fully expect him to look like, and his opponent's very tough, and
Uh-huh.
one in amateur for 247 as well. So hats off to Jake as well. But I expect both of them to look more seasoned as pros than guys who are 0-0 and 1-0 or 0
Yeah.
and 1. So that's something to just keep in mind in the whole development. What are you predicting or thinking is going to happen? You're taking on Joey Klein. You've already said you expect him to be a tougher opponent. He is
Mhm.
making his debut. Do you know his athletic background? Is he bringing in a skill set from wrestling or from something else that you think is going to be challenging? And kind of what's your prediction or mindset when it comes to fighting Joey Klein at Brawl in the Burgh 20?
Well, originally the information I got on him was boxer with minimal grappling, and my coach at Devotion, Jamie Bryant, looked into it a little bit more, and we were both looking into it. And his funny you say that his teammate Jake Zach is
Oh,
fighting Lucas
exactly.
Seibert.
That's Shake.
They go to a Dwayne Ludwig Bang Muay Thai school.
Mm,
So I'm 100% expecting a Muay Thai kind of striking movement style to come forward at me. And I've been preparing for that pretty heavily. Like today at 1 o'clock, I was just hitting pads, working on teeps, working on checking kicks, catching kicks, all kinds of stuff like that. I feel like he's going to be, they say he's mean and stuff like that, which I mean, we'll see, but I believe he'll be a lot more aggressive.
mm.
Um, Kind of try to push me, see what happens with that, and I'm like fully prepared for that. I've been having a lot of aggressive styles kind of in sparring, like getting really good looks on that, having people pressure me, give me a lot of like heavy pace, high pace, and throwing lots of leg kicks, checking lots of my kicks, and all kinds of stuff like that with that Muay Thai system. And I've studied that system a lot. Like I've been watching YouTube videos on breaking that down and stuff like that. So I think I'll know what combos his coaches are calling when they call them instead of it being the traditional like 1-2 boxing style. It'll probably be like one is a whole combination series and
Sure.
stuff like that. So I have that in mind, but planning kind of can go out the window. So I'm just gonna react like I normally do and like kind of keep my spacing and fight as aggressive as I can and try to stand up and strike with him and see what happens with that. Get a good look, try to get him on the cage, get takedowns, see how he is on the ground. But we'll see how that comes because I think he'll be expecting me to try to go to the ground. But as far as striking goes, I'm excited. It should be a really good striking match, and I believe he'll be a good striker, so it'll be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, it's always great as a fan, as somebody who's hopefully coming to support you, or to watch somebody else. We've talked about this a lot. A lot of what's great about 247 fighting championships is fans come to watch one person and then they get exposed to the other
Yeah,
people that are on the card. That's why
definitely.
13 fights with the pro fights, the two pro fights plus the, I think, five
I
advanced amateur fights. You're right
yeah,
on the cusp of going advanced amateur. A title fight as advanced amateur. I think people start to experience and start saying, "Oh, I like all these fighters." What's really cool about what you said is you obviously have a lot of physical ability. You're an athlete. You're young, which is great. I've been talking to younger and younger. There will be an 18-year-old fighting. I think
yeah,
he fighting in the first in the first fight, and he was on the show yesterday, and he said, why not fight and kind of get your experience so that
yeah,
way if it does turn into a career you have more years as pro, which of course makes sense,
yeah,
and you're still young at 21 to be fighting. I also think it's exciting that you are cerebral, that you've kind of thought through some game planning. Obviously, just like Mike Tyson said, a game plan goes out when you're punched in the mouth, but it really comes down
yeah,
to what you can adjust. I'm a big fan of anybody that puts in the effort. A Bang Muay Thai gym just means that they follow a series, that they follow like a protocol, which I
yeah,
think
yeah.
is great. Just like a lot of people train at Gracie gyms or whatever. So makes a lot of sense there. Jake Zach is kind of makes sense that your opponent's described as being mean because Jake Zach has kind of that aggressive. So it makes
Yeah.
sense. A lot of times gyms sort of breed the same type of fighter. Very, very exciting. Talk about the crowd. Are you expecting a big crowd pop when you come out? Who are you expecting to
Yeah.
be there to root for you? And kind of what does it feel like to, like you said, get that high from a win, but also that high from the crowd being behind you?
Well, so for the past couple fights, I've had a solid crowd, but I feel like for this one, it'll be probably my best ticket sales and turnout because, like, you tell your friends and all the people you're like, oh, I'm doing an MMA fight, and they're like, oh, okay, and like some of your close friends and your family will show up, but like the more you do it and the more success you have, the more people will kind of eyeballing you. They're like, hey man, when's the next one? When's the next one? Send me the link for the next one, and so that and devotion. I've been going there a lot, and a lot of them have just seen me train and just like I try to like when I go to a gym, I try to make friends with like as many people as I can because like I'm like, hey, we're in here to work, and like you guys are doing something that I have a lot of respect for you to go out of your way and do. Like a lot of these people, they just are trying to get in shape. They're coming after a long shift at work. They're just like there to have fun. And it's like, but they're also helping me progress. Like today, I went in to hit mitts, and I thought it was just going to be me and Jamie Bryant, my coach. And he had three of our guys come in. They were holding pads for me. They were giving me certain looks. They were giving me like tag rounds and all kinds of stuff like that. So like them being along and helping support me makes them have interest as well. So I think like the more I do it and the more like people I connect with and the more people like have their eyes on me, the bigger of a pop I'll have in the crowd. So he's been helping push that as well as Aldo, of course, my head coach. He's big on helping me get like people to look at my ticket sales, people to go through my link, use that, pushing me to all our people at the gym I go to and stuff like that. So I think for this one I'll have a pretty good turnout because this should for sure be the most tickets I've sold, and just like I've connected with these people more and more, so I'm sure a lot of people will get pretty loud for me when I walk out, and I got a banger walkout song planned, and it'll be nice, man. I'm excited.
Well, I'm excited that you're excited. I'm certainly excited to see you in there. And I think you're right. Like sometimes developing a fan following starts by winning fights, right? You're
Yeah,
winning
yeah,
fights. People get excited because you're excited. Training at three gyms, because I know you get to three primary gyms.
mhm,
That helps too, because people get excited to be able to see who
yeah,
they're training. It's also, I've got a quote. It's a requirement that I reference GSP at least once a video because I'm a big fan of GSP.
yeah.
But
Who
he
isn't?
said, yeah, who isn't, right? Particularly you at 6 feet, fighting at 170. He was 5'11, 5'11 at 170. That's a great frame.
Yep.
He was a little bit more muscle than obviously bumped up to 85 for his kind of retirement fight. But he said, he goes back years ago, but somebody was asking him about He was on his welterweight run and as defending champ. Somebody said something about like who's making you better, and he referenced a guy that you and I no one's ever heard of because it's a French Canadian guy who has never fought, and it's kind of a cool story. And he was saying like this guy shows up, gives GSP hard rounds, which is even hard to even imagine
Yeah.
giving
Yeah.
GSP hard rounds, and he's never fought. But he trains hard to be able to provide GSP and the other guys from TriStar. He's kind of a professional. I think he has a different job, but in the gym, he's a professional sparring guy. He's a guy that makes people better. And so you mentioned there's a lot of guys and girls that go and they work out to get in shape. That's great stuff. And I think a gym that has a fitness component and a fight gym can be great together because the fitness people might never want to fight, but they can get kind of inspired by the fighters, and the fighters get to see people that are, maybe not in the best shape and they're putting effort in to get life goals together. So I think that makes perfect sense. I think it's great. And if it's good for GSP to have, people close to him around him that don't have their own careers, but that are kind of focused on what the gym's doing, I think that can go a long way. Just like going a long way with having a fighter that you're bringing up. We all remember GSP kind of helped bring along Rory McDonald, and so it can go both ways. Really exciting things. Any closing thoughts on your fight? We're 6 days away. Brawl in the Burgh 20. Get tickets. They're still available, but they're going quick. 247fighting.com. If anybody's watching this out of the area, wants to support Noah, then get the pay-per-view by downloading the app on any platform that has apps. 247 Live. We always recommend getting the year subscription because it gets every pay-per-view for the year plus the whole data bank of all the other videos. But if you want to get the pay-per-view, make sure you give credit to Noah Gaudiello when you do that. But I'll give you the final word, and a big thanks for coming on the show.
Well, I want to say thank you for having me. Obviously, I apologize. I don't check Facebook, so this is a long time coming. But yeah, man, just come out and watch, or just get the pay-per-view, because this whole card and this whole promotion is this, like, it's such a blessing for us all to have 247, because like I mean, I have only been here for like you said, a year almost, and just the people in it, the events they have, and just the community that is like created, and like they're on such a a staircase. They're rising so fast. It's so incredible to watch. And like it won't be too long before like all you can hear about is 247 fighting, 247 fighting, 247 fighting. So like hop on early and like come and watch this event, because like the past two I've been a part of, and I've been to 3 total, but like it's always a well-ran show. It's such a like great environment. Everyone there is having a good time watching incredible fights. Like you'll be surprised by how high skill these kids are, and like all these people fighting is like, for an amateur bout, just to sit there and you'll be like jaw dropped just watching, like, wow, this is so much fun. And like I'm so excited literally to go in there, fight, and show like the levels I've climbed and like how much better I am than I was before. And then just to get out there, get done, and watch. Cause like it's such a good event that I'm excited literally to do my fight and then go watch. That's why I'm excited to be early on this card. But yeah, besides that, man, just come check me out. Follow me on Instagram at @Gaudiello and get your tickets through my link, and just come see what's about to happen, because we've been working hard, and I think this is going to be the one that really puts me on the map and people are excited to see me for.
I completely agree. It's been great having you on the show. You've been listening to Luke Payson with MMA Fancast with first-time guest of the show, hopefully first of many times to come, Noah Gaudiello. Thanks so much, Noah. You take care. See ya.
Thank you, sir.
Live in action on the 24th, 6 days from now, 247 Fighting Championship Brawl in the Burgh 20. See you there.